Society does not want individuals who think for themselves, who take risks, who challenge the status quo. It wants obedient functionaries, people who will follow the script. Go to school, get a job, buy a house, retire, die. Aldous Huxley saw this clearly. In Brave New World, he warned that the greatest threat to human freedom is not oppression, but distraction and comfort. Fear is the ultimate pacifier. It keeps you just uncomfortable enough to stay in line, but never so desperate that you actually rebel. The neurological trap. Fear is not just psychological, it is biological. Every time you hesitate, every time you second-guess yourself, your brain is reinforcing neural pathways that say, danger, retreat, stay small. The amygdala, the ancient fear center of the brain, doesn't distinguish between a lion chasing you and the fear of public speaking. To it, both are threats. And every time you obey that fear, you strengthen its hold over you. But here's the twist. The brain is plastic. It rewires itself based on what you do. Which means every time you act despite fear, you are not just making a decision, you are reprogramming your mind. The existential dilemma, Sartre's bad faith. Jean-Paul Sartre coined the term bad faith, the act of lying to yourself to avoid the burden of freedom. When you say, I can't pursue my dreams because I need security, I can't leave this relationship because I might not find better, I can't speak my truth because people won't like me, you are not being rational. You are surrendering to fear while pretending it's logic. This is the great modern tragedy. Most people would rather believe they are trapped than admit they are free. Because freedom is terrifying. It means no one is coming to save you. It means the excuses are over. The turning point. Now the question shifts. It is no longer, how do I stop being afraid? But rather, what if fear is not my enemy, but my compass? What if the things that scare you most are not obstacles, but signposts, pointing you toward the life you're meant to live? The unseen consequences. Fear is not content with merely influencing your decisions, it seeks to become them. It does not announce its presence. It embeds itself in your nervous system, your relationships, your worldview, until you can no longer distinguish its voice from your own. The silent war on potential. Consider the career you didn't pursue, not because you lacked skill, but because the thought of failing publicly made your stomach tighten. Or the relationship you ended prematurely, not because it was wrong, but because the vulnerability required to make it work felt like standing naked in a storm. These are not choices. They are surrenders. Fear operates like a parasite in the brain, hijacking your reward system. Every time you avoid a risk, you receive a hit of relief, a neurochemical pat on the back for staying small. This is how potential is assassinated. Not in dramatic moments of failure, but in the 1,000 tiny retreats you don't even notice. Viktor Frankl observed this in the concentration camps. Those who lost the ability to imagine a future were the first to perish. Modern society is not a death camp, but the principle remains. When fear eliminates your capacity to envision a different life, it has already won. The Stockholm Syndrome of the soul. Why don't people notice? Because fear is a master of disguise. It convinces you that your procrastination is just being careful, that your cynicism is being realistic, that your avoidance of conflict is keeping the peace. This is how ordinary people become hostages in their own lives. They develop a perverse loyalty to their limitations, defending the very walls that cage them. Schopenhauer saw this clearly. Most men, he wrote, will choose the familiar misery over the unfamiliar happiness. Not because they love suffering, but because fear has rewritten their definition of safety. The ripple effects. The consequences extend beyond the individual. In relationships, fear transforms love into a transaction. You give only what you can afford to lose, creating connections that are stable but sterile. In creativity, the brain begins to self-censor before the idea even reaches consciousness. Most genius dies in the preemptive strike of, that will never work. In society, a culture built on fear produces obedient consumers rather than free thinkers. Huxley's prophecy fulfilled, not through tyranny, but through the voluntary surrender to comfort and distraction. The most terrifying part? This all happens beneath awareness. Like a computer running background processes, fear consumes your mental resources before you ever engage with the world.